Welcome back, everyone, to Aaron's Opinion. Today we have the tremendous honor of welcoming Hans Weiberg, CEO, founder of Be My Eyes, to Aaron's Opinion. Before we get into your company, though, thank you for joining us today. We need to know who you are. So, who is Hans Weiberg?
Thank you so much. A small correction: I'm not the CEO. I'm the founder, and I'm super active in the company. But I don't like to be the CEO that need to take care of all the boring financial stuff and all that. So, so. But other than that, you're right. So, and yes, I am. Now I am actually 58 years old, and I am from Denmark, and I am visually impaired. I have retinitis pigmentosa. I'm pretty much blind. I have a super tiny, small central vision. Uh, I'm so lucky that I can actually read the text on my phone with the vision I have, but I use white cane for the rest of it. um, so that's kind of a little strange, but yeah. And I have been living here in Denmark all my life. Been traveling quite a bit also. And I was actually in the beginning of my life, I was set out to become a farmer. And that's all I wanted to do in my life. And when I took the farmer education here in Denmark, and when I was 25 years old, I realized I had this eye disease, so I had to do something else. And then I went back to school and to the university, and then I ended up working for the Danish Blind Association as a consultant for a number of years. And in that period of time, I came up with this idea for Be My Eye. So yeah.
Excellent. Very, very good. By the way, I spoke with a blind farmer here on Aaron's Opinion. So just to let you know, if you still have the dream to be a farmer, you can definitely do that.
Well, you
And
see, my
yeah.
the farm that I came from is a dairy farm with
Mm.
Jersey cows, and I have got to realize that I'm not really a morning person. So I say, I don't think I should go back to milking the cows very early in the morning. So, but thank you.
I see. I see. Okay, then. Well, very good. And by the way, I happen to have glaucoma and a congenital heart defect. I've been blind from birth. So let's get into it. I mean, really, what was the thing or the motivation that really pushed you over the edge to see that you needed to come up with the idea and put the idea of Be My Eyes into actuality and practice?
Well, I think it was more of uh, yeah, as always, it's coincidence and circumstances and so on. But the period where I was working for the Danish Blind Association, I my job was to visit newly blind and people who had been blind for a long time in their home, and telling them about what can the association do for you, and how do you get a new white cane, and how can I learn to read braille and all that. And so I met a lot of also younger tech savvy people, and this was back in 2011 and 12. And some of them were, I mean, iPhones were pretty new at the time. The iPhone came out in 2007, so it was pretty new that you could actually have such a powerful phone in your pocket. And some of the more tech savvy were using Skype and FaceTime to call their friends and family to do exactly what you can do in Be My Eyes. And one of them said to me, but I always have to call someone. And that's where I kind of came up with this idea. Oh, we can make a group you can call. I had no idea how to make an app or anything, but I kind of knew it was possible. um, I didn't realize how much work it would take to do it. That might be a good thing, but the people that I met that kind of triggered the idea to come into my head, so to speak. So.
So what is all involved, and really how much work is it to create an app, and exactly how does that work in a nutshell?
Well, when I came up with this idea, I had no idea how to do it, and I was walking around in my home and talking to my family, and they were getting pretty tired of listening to me and my stupid idea. And then one day I heard, I think it was on the radio, about something called Startup Weekend here in Denmark, where it's a weekend event on a university, where you can basically walk in from the street and you get 1 minute to present an idea, and if somebody else liked the idea, then over the weekend you kind of work on a concept or something like that. And that's what I did, and I was lucky to find 7 other people who thought, "Oh, that's kind of cool. Let's have a look at that." And we actually won the prize for the most innovative idea. This was in 1 or 2 days. It's 10 years ago now that I presented the idea. And we after this weekend, we started to have Skype meetings every other week, and we started to, how can we raise some money, and because there was no developers in our group, so we need to find some money to hire somebody who could actually build the app. And we tried some crowdfunding, and it didn't work out too well. And then we simply started writing applications to some of the bigger foundations here in Denmark. And 1 year later, it always takes a lot of time before they even answer you, and then they have more questions and all that. So 1 year later, we got $300,000. And that's a lot of money. And that was basically day one in our business, because we could start hiring people who actually knew how to build an app. And this was then in 2013, and we had to find developers here in Denmark who knew something about accessibility, and who also knew something about video conference technology and so on. So we did spend quite a bit of time finding the right people to actually build the app, because when you have these money, you can only spend them once. Before you get the money, you can have all kinds of ideas, but when you start spending the money, then you better make sure you do it right. So it was kind of nerve-wracking to kind of start hiring people and pay them salary and so on. But it was maybe one of the most important thing we did was actually to rent a office in one of the main institutions for blind people in Copenhagen here in Denmark. So we kind of had our office in the middle of a whole bunch of blind people. So every time we needed a new tester, we could just open the door and basically grab the first one who walked by and say, "Oh, please come in here and try to sign in here, or do something that we had just," because it's very important that you work with the people that you are building something for. And it's also important that you're not using the same tester over and over, because they get to know your product. And we knew that it has to be so simple, so you even if you walked in and you never thought about anything like this before, then you should be able to sign in pretty easily. So that was kind of the main focus we had in the beginning. And as I mentioned before, we had all kinds of ideas, but we got into this mindset of making it as simple as possible, and we got it down to basically one button in the first app, which we were super proud about. We even won an award for having such a simple and easy to use app at the time. So that was that was the start of it. So
Really good. Really good. I absolutely love the idea. Absolutely love it. So, and then the other big question in all of your success that you've had, what would you say has been the greatest or the most interesting piece of criticism you've received from either blind people or sighted people regarding to your app?
oh, that's a new question. um, well, it's kind of interesting. You see, the whole point of Be My Eyes is that you should not have to think about who to call. Because I mean, we all know that we ask the same person for help, and they really want to help, but we don't feel that good about it. So I was kind of surprised that we have gotten the request for quite a few users to have a specific group they can call of people they know, because the whole idea about BMAS is kind of you should not call the people you know all the time. So, but so we have been thinking about kind of expand a little bit on that, and but I was kind of surprised that it was a request we got, because I was thinking, yeah, but you know your friend, you can just call them, but they want to do it through the Be My Eyes app, so that was kind of surprising. I don't know if that's a really critical, but it's yeah, interesting at least. So.
That was exactly what I was looking for. I was looking for deep information. That's very interesting. Well, because Hans, I work for Company X, I'll call it, and Company X is a teaching company, and I'm one of the teachers. And oftentimes, students request to speak to me or request a favorite tutor over and over again over a period of years. So it may have, taken you aback or surprised you a little that people were so willing to call people that they already know, when in fact the point of the app was to be independent from people they know. I'm totally on board with it. I totally get it. But as someone who works for a company where, an education company, I can understand where people want to build rapport with someone who's helping them. So that, I think that's how I interpret that. And I can understand. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I also think that I have kind of grown a little bit, because in the beginning I was thinking, oh, this is not what BMIS is for. You must do that on your own. But then now, maybe I'm just getting a little older. I'm more like, but it's not me to decide who you want to call. We should just kind of be the middleman, and then you can do kind of whatever you, maybe not whatever, but pretty much with the platform, we should just help you make your life a little more easy. So that I think that's more my approach right now. So yeah, but thank you for that. So
Right, definitely. So obviously, the app I would estimate, or I would guess, was originally written in Danish. So how many languages at this point? Basically, if you don't mind me asking, what are your analytics? What is a good summary of your data? Who uses the app now, and who are the volunteers who are helping? How does that whole process work?
yeah. It was not written in Danish. You see, Denmark is a super small country. We are 5.8 million Danes here in Denmark. And one of the good things about coming from a small country is that you have to be international from the beginning, because we could not make any sustainable business model out of, or anything out of supporting the Danish blind community. We knew from day one that we had to do this in a smart way, that we could support blind people all over the world. And So it was from day one a premise that we should be able to support basically all languages as it is right now. If you go into the app and you want to select a language, you have 185 to choose from. And the app itself is translated into about 40 of those languages. And we have 5.7. You see, we have 5.8 million people in Denmark, and I have 5.7 million people volunteering for Be My Eyes, which I'm super proud about. This is only funny if you're from Denmark, but no, I'm looking forward. I get it, yeah. I'm looking forward to that day where I can say I have more volunteers on my app than there's people in Denmark. I mean, I know this is completely meaningless to anybody else.
But, no, of course, absolutely, you would want to go for that. Sure.
Yeah. And we have we almost about to hit 400,000 blind and low vision people, and it is basically, we don't have any in North Korea, or there's a few places we don't have any users, but otherwise the app is available in every country where you have a decent internet connection, and we have users on a lot of small islands that I have never heard of, and so it's really it's really amazing, and it makes me proud that we on some Atlantic islands we have maybe one user, but that's fine. If we can help one person in the middle of the Atlantic, that's perfectly fine. And also because we have so many different languages, and of course some of the smaller languages, there might not be that many volunteers, but then it correlates pretty much with the number of blind users there. So that's kind of goes hand in hand pretty much. So that's kind of the metric. We don't really know who our volunteers is because Be My Eyes is anonymous. We do ask for your name and we ask for your email address, but we don't really use the name for anything. The email address, we simply need to find out who is the owner of this account and so on. And we don't collect any other data on our users, so we don't know how old they are or what gender they are. When I look at the names, I believe there might be a slightly overweight of. I think there's a little more female than male volunteers, but I'm not quite sure. I think it's pretty much 50-50. It may be 60 or 40 or something like that. But I think it's pretty. Down the line. So,
What in today's society, a lot of people are very skeptical of data and data usage and the way that our data is used. So you kind of alluded to it. Are you skeptical about data? Why do you not collect a lot of data from your volunteers? Why do you not know a lot of information about who they are? What is your quandary or your concern?
Well, Denmark is part of the European Union, and we have GDPR, which is a data protection for consumers, and I totally agree on it's kind of a pain in butt sometimes, but in general, I believe that if you don't need any information, you should not collect the information. So that's kind of the bottom line of it. I realized that you could start selling email addresses and all kind of information if you want to, but that's not what our volunteers has signed up for. And I also I believe when you have volunteers, working for you. I mean, I'm not doing any work. I do, but not supporting the blind people. It is our volunteers who are helping the blind people, and then we should be very respectful about how we use or store or whatever the data that we have about people. So, and that's why we limit the data to a minimum. I mean, we don't even have people's password. That's kind of an encrypted in a smart way. So I cannot look up your password, but I can reset it, but I cannot see it. So I think that's pretty cool. So even if we get hacked, I don't think the password will be available in our system. So.
Right, right. Sure, sure. No, that makes sense to me. I definitely see what you're saying. So, what process then do volunteers have to go through if they want to volunteer on the app and be? What is the word that you use? Did you just say volunteer? What do you call the people who are volunteering and picking up when the blind person calls and uses the? Yeah.
We call them volunteers, and the process is also super low key. We have a short video that explains how a call is working, but there is not a heavy training that you need to do, and that is of course also something that you as a blind person will maybe run into, that the volunteer has never volunteered before. You will be the first one, and that's how it is on Be My Eyes. So if you need the volunteers to know something, you need to do the training for them. And when you as a blind person has been using Be My Eyes a number of times, then you will say to the volunteer, okay, I'm trying to find this, please tell me if I should move the phone left or right or something like that. And then I mean, it's pretty straightforward what you need to do, and I have been saying many times that to the volunteer, don't worry, the blind person knows exactly what he or she is doing. You should just be their eye. You're not their brain or anything. So they will point at something and you tell them what you can see. And if they are looking for something they have dropped on the floor, they will explain what it is. Maybe not what color it is, but at least what it is. And then you can find it. And I mean, if you have some super specific request, then you can go into the section in Be My Eyes called Specialized Help. We can talk more about that later, where you can call a representative from a company that can help you with some computer issues or something like that, where you really need an expert to help you.
Well, let's talk about that. So let's say someone needs specialized help. So expand on that. So does Be My Eyes work with specific other third-party companies to provide this specialized help? How does that work?
It's a super important thing because that is also our business model. You see, Be My Eyes is a totally free app to use, and the reason it is free is because when we on this the first weekend we had, we looked at the numbers and we could see that the most of the blind people in this world, they live in India and Africa and China, and they might have a smartphone and they have maybe access to some internet from the neighbor or something like that, but we cannot charge them $10 a month for anything. So we decided eyesight, that's free. And then we had to find another way to make a business model, and that is our specialized help. So if you need a volunteer, you click on the call a volunteer button. And if you need more specific assistance, then you can go into specialized help. And in specialized help, you can find a number of companies. That will be Google and Microsoft. You can call Spotify if you want to know something more about how to find your music. You can go to LinkedIn. You can have some expert on LinkedIn help you set up your LinkedIn. I'm super proud of that because so many blind people are unemployed and they need to be super sharp on their profile. And you can call Procter & Gamble brands like Clearblue, that's the pregnancy test. And what happens is that, let's say you want to call Microsoft, then you go into specialized help and you find Microsoft and you place a call to Microsoft support. And we don't just call Microsoft. We call these specific, maybe 5 or 10 people at Microsoft that knows about what products we are using as blind and low vision people. Some of these agents has had more than 5,000 calls. So from Be My Eyes. So they are really experts in helping blind and low vision people with, it's pretty much the same issues we have, all of us. So these experts, even before you know that you call them, they pretty much know what you're going to ask them, because they have had so many calls, and they also get the video part. So they can say, okay, please point your phone at the screen. Okay, you need to reset or put a check mark or whatever. And they can guide you through that process. And these companies, they are so happy about this better way to support their blind customers, that they are willing to pay Be My Eyes a monthly subscription. Google and Microsoft and the other company, they pay Be My Eyes every month a subscription to be on our platform. And that's how we can have Be My Eyes as a free service for everybody in the whole world. So,
Magnificent. Absolutely magnificent. Completely. I just love that. That's so cool. That's so cool. And that's so good, because I'm 30. So for someone my age, I grew up in the 90s where, technology wasn't like this. You couldn't just say, okay, yeah, meet me on Zoom. What? Well, that's some movie thing. What? And I grew up, although although you don't know this about me at all, but I grew up in the countryside as someone who kind of, quite frankly, came from a very primitive background in a lot of ways, where I was never really properly exposed to technology. So if you want to know, Hans, have you ever spoken to a technophobe? You're talking to one. So the fact that you've taken the time to create specialized help so that other technophobes all over the world can get help that probably they could have solved themselves within a 30-second period, but still critical.
But the funny thing is that the companies, they really like it, because they have the reason why we came to do this is because I think it was Microsoft who said that they were really frustrated about when a blind person called them, because they have maybe 1,000 or 2,000 call center workers taking all kind of calls, but none of them know anything about screen reader or anything, and they were kind of freaked out. Oh, I have a blind person. What should I do? And now they have these, I think, around 10 people that are really experts and do this all day long. So it's way easier for everybody, and also for the blind people, they get a way better support than they otherwise would do, simply because they speak to people who know what they are talking about. So,
excellent. And you call the people that are answering the calls, not back to the volunteers, not to the specialized help, but just the volunteers. They're volunteers, which generally would lead me to believe that they are not paid, which is beautiful, which is wonderful. But are there any, not really rewards, but are there any perks, or are there any, apart from doing the right thing and helping people, are there any other perks that you offer volunteers, to mark their progress or things like that?
It's kind of funny you ask, because in the beginning, when we launched the app in January 2015, we had no idea because nobody had done this before. So we had no idea. Would it be easy to find volunteers, or will they run away when they have done it the first time? So we actually built in a gamification element, so you could kind of gain points when you had helped someone. You would get like 10 points, and then you could not do anything with the points, but points are good. So and
If I can't do anything with the points, what good are the points?
yeah, but people like points, so
Yeah,
uh,
yeah.
and we didn't have anything to give away. But it turned out two things that people were crazy about signing up for Be My. That's why we have 5.7 million of them, and also we have gotten so many emails from volunteers who had helped someone turning on their coffee machine, and sometimes I'm in real doubt, who am I helping the most, the volunteers or the blind people? Because the volunteers are simply excited about, oh, I did this and it was super easy, and maybe this blind person has a little easier day or something like that. But it's just a good feeling. We all know that it is a good feeling to help someone, and
Definitely.
especially if you can lie on your couch at home and be a good person. That's kind of intriguing to a lot of people, and it's also I think 90% of our calls, they are less than 3 minutes. I mean, we have many calls that are, have I set my oven to 300 degrees? Yes, you have. Thank you so much. That's it. That's exactly what I needed to know. Or turning on a washing machine. I mean, that can be a little tricky. You're pretty much using the same program all the time, but sometimes you have some other kind of clothes that you need to wash, and you need to make sure that you hit the right temperature or something. And people are using Beam, and that's like a 1 minute thing. Um, and uh, and and one of the other benefits of exactly turning on a washing machine is that the volunteers suddenly realize, oh, Jesus, these washing machines, they are absolutely impossible for blind people to use. How can that be? And shouldn't we change that? And suddenly we have some maybe not super, but we have some small ambassadors out there who kind of understand that this world is not made for blind people, and that's also something that I'm really proud about. That I get this feedback sometimes that oh, we should do something about that, and it can't be right that you pay so much for a washing machine and then it's not even accessible to a blind person and all that. So that's also kind of funny. Mm.
Really interesting. What was the, well, I don't know if you have this off the top of your head, as we say, but what was the longest call ever on Be My Eyes, and what was the purpose of that call?
Well, I don't know, but I we have kind of put a limit on 2 hours
Good
for call,
heavens.
uh, and but we have had a number of calls that lasted for 2 hours. But to be honest, I think most of the calls has been they did something for 20 minutes and then they spoke for an hour and a half. Because I mean, it's not ideal for like reading a book or something. So Be My Eyes is mainly for short time task, or you are walking a distance and you're not quite sure when to turn right, and or you can't find the bus stop, or you want to make sure you hit the right store when you walk down the street. It's the one after McDonald's, but you can't really remember where the door is or something like that, and then you can use Be My Eyes to kind of do that. And of course, that can take quite a while before you get there or something. Uh, I have a guy in South Africa who is living way out in the countryside, and he is using Be My Eyes to walk from I think one village to another, and it's a kind of a gravel road, and it can be a little tricky to not to get lost there. and so, so that's kind of really out in the countryside. And then we have a lot of course, people. Yeah, I think most of the blind people, they live in town or cities. But we do have people all over the place. So.
Really, really fascinating. Fascinating. So it's helping blind. You're definitely helping blind people, but then also at the same time, these volunteers are giving blind people independence that they wouldn't necessarily have. That's truly,
Yes,
truly inspirational. Go ahead.
I spoke to a young person in who had moved to London, and her parents were there kind of the first day or two, and got her into this apartment and all that. But then the parents, of course, go back home, and then she forgot something, and then and she had this new microwave oven with way too many buttons, and she had forgotten what her parents had told her about what the buttons were for and all that. Uh, and then she could simply get a real rehearsal with Be My Eyes,
Hmm.
and she was also using Be My Eyes to describe what was on the other side of the road, because she had kind of forgot to ask her parents about who can look into my windows and all that, and so she was using Be My Eye to describe the surroundings there, and get the small pieces put together in her apartment that she needed some information about. And that's, she said to me that that helped her tremendously be comfortable in her new apartment, because she knew that she could always call someone and have them describe something she couldn't find or didn't know how to work out.
Absolutely. So good. So you might have already answered this when you were mentioning about the one man who walked between villages in South Africa, but what would you say has been the most unexpected use or the most unusual context or use of Be My Eyes ever?
Well, maybe I should not even say this, but I'll do that anyway. We had a blind electrician. He was retired. He had been electrician all his life, and he decided to rewire his house. He was completely blind, uh, and he was using Be My Eye to, and the volunteers were telling him the colors of the wire so he could put it in the right places. And of course, he I don't know actually, but I hope he had someone come and check afterwards. But he was doing like 99% of the work himself, which I was super impressed. And he sent me an email. I got to know it because one of the volunteers emailed me and said, is this safe? And then I got into a email conversation with this guy, and I realized that he actually knew what he was doing, and then so on. And the colors are the same as they have always been, and so no problem. And yeah, he was absolutely. So that was maybe the most. But then there's other stories like. Our Vice President Will Butler, he tells this story about a blind guy who heard some noises in his backyard, and then he oh, what's that? And then he uses Be My Eyes, and he points out of the window, and the volunteer said, "Oh, that's just your dog in the backyard." I don't have a dog. Uh, okay, now you do. And then they went out, and they he got a hold of the dog, and they could see the tag. And they could actually call the owner of the dog,
Wow.
and
Oh, wow.
so these small,
Oh, that's
very
huge.
unusual.
As an animal, oh man. As an animal lover, I had two dogs. I actually had a guide dog. Oh, that touches me. That really, really touches me. Being able to return a dog to
Mm,
its owner. Wow. Oh, that's really good. That's why Be My Eyes is the best. To say that, okay, never mind about the blind people. You give dogs back to their owners. Okay, it shouldn't be about
But
blind people anymore. It should be about giving returning. You should do pet return. Wait a minute.
yeah.
Under the special help special section, pet return, and then blind people can go around and look for their pets.
Yeah,
That's the thing. That's
it is.
that's
Yeah. We
I
had
mean,
another.
that really touches me.
I
Yeah.
have another kind of funny story. No pets involved, but it was a lady who was a volunteer, and this guy had some issue, and they solved that, and then they got into a conversation. This happens very often. Okay, how is the weather in Austin, and how is the weather in New York? And they talked for a little while, and then this volunteer said, "Yeah, it's pretty annoying because I can't get my car to start." And this the blind person, he was a retired mechanic, so he said, "Oh, go out, let's have a look at the car." And then please open the hood. How do you do that? That's the little handle inside the car. You need to and they actually got the car up and running, and she
That's
was so
adorable.
excited.
That is cool. That is so a blind person, a retired blind mechanic, helps
Yeah,
a sighted person get their car.
yeah,
That's cool.
it is. Yeah. So
That's
and
adorable. Yeah. Hmm.
so it's of course it's mainly the other way, but sometimes it's yeah, the blind person can also help the volunteer,
That's
and
beautiful. That's
and
so
and they
cute.
they, they very often, I think, like 99% of the time, they help the volunteer have a great day. Absolutely, because it simply makes a huge impact on people. When you see many of our volunteers, they don't really know a blind person. They read about Be My Eyes on Facebook or Twitter, and then they say, "Oh, I can do that," and then they sign up, and then they pretty much forget about it. And one day they get this a notification, and then they answer the call, and suddenly they are one on one with a blind person, solving a real issue, not a big issue, but a real issue that this blind person needs assistance with, and that is just very, very impactful. I didn't think about how impactful it would be when I came up with this, but it turns out that this is what drives our sign up on volunteers. I mean, we have not spent any money marketing, and even though we now have volunteers in 185 different languages and in 185 different countries, if there are so many, and it's simply because people feel good about doing this small thing, and they can do it in an easy way. So it's very impactful. It is.
Definitely. That's really fascinating. Um, no, I mean, are all of the I mean, do you have volunteers from like all age groups? Um, I mean, because you're really illustrating your strength and your openness and your, very very relaxed and productive mindset that you have. But what surely you have some parameter for the volunteer. So what are the minimal or the benchmark or the parameters that you use to grade volunteers? And of course, do volunteers get feedback? And is there some? I know there's no real reward tangibly, but is there some ranking system amongst the volunteers?
You have to be 17 to sign up to Be My Eyes at all, also as a blind person. And the reason for this
Mm-hmm.
is because we connect strangers, and we want to be absolutely sure. Sorry, we want to be absolutely sure that you understand the implication of talking to a stranger. I mean, we don't want small blind girls speaking to strange men they don't know, and I'm pretty sure their parents don't want that either. So that's why we have decided that you need to be 17. in order to also as a volunteer, we want you to kind of know the concept of a electricity bill, if that's what you need to figure out or something like that, and be somewhat responsible for your answers and so on. So I'm sure a smart 10-year-old person could be a amazing volunteer, but we want people to be more or less adult when they join Be My Eyes. I forgot the rest of your question. Sorry.
You answered it. No problem. Oh, well, I guess. I mean, I was just wondering. Once you're a volunteer with Be My Eyes for a while, is there a rating? In other words, does the blind person fill out a rating and say, "Oh, 5 stars, 4 stars for each volunteer"?
No, we have. Actually, we have been thinking quite a bit about this in the beginning, because when Uber came and Airbnb, you started to rate other people. But the big difference is that I don't think it's fair to rate a volunteer 1 star. That's not cool. I mean, if you have a lousy driver with your Uber and you have to pay him and he is a jerk, then it's more than fair to give him 1 star.
Right.
But that is a financial thing between you, and that's not the case with a volunteer. So I don't think it's fair to kind of rate a volunteer at 1 star.
No.
So,
by no means by no means would I
Mm.
be suggesting that at all. No. I just think that to some extent, even when you're doing the right thing and volunteering, you still would need a way of keeping track of the good work that's being done. Or I guess a follow-up question that I have now is, so then how do you keep track of all this great work that your volunteers are doing? You have to have some sort of secret way of keeping an eye on them.
Well, we can go into the system and see how many calls you have taken and how long they were, and we can also see if when a call is ended, we ask how did it go, and then that is more on the technical side. But also, if something is not the way it should be, you can report a call, and of course we keep track of all that data, so we know who to not have in the system anymore, because sometimes we have some prankster pretending to be blind and make calls and so on.
I'm not going to give them credit, but I saw that. I know what you're talking about. Yeah, that really offended me, and I'm not a user of Be My Eyes, and I was off the recording. I'll tell you one other thing about that, but that really that really was not okay with me. So that's sure. I surely hope that was not okay with you. If it was, we need to keep talking. But that was definitely not. No, that was from a blind person's perspective. That was deeply disturbing and deeply offensive to me. Both the behavior and also the aura.
It's not a big issue at all. And when someone report. This is something you should take a look at. Then my team gets an email immediately, and we go in and see what's going on. So yeah.
Excellent. Very good. So, but luckily though, generally, how many times have you had? I mean, it seems like you only have great volunteers and great people who are interested in this concept in the first place. But really, how many times have you had to actually remove a volunteer from the system permanently? Ever? Once? Never?
I mean, we have 400,000 and 5.7 million. So we have removed very few volunteers. There has been I don't know, a number of pranksters, but nothing super serious, but annoying.
To clarify, by prankster you mean a volunteer who was pranking the
No,
blind
no,
person, or
no, no,
otherwise?
no. That has never
Oh,
happened.
thank God. Okay.
There has been some volunteers who were completely hopeless and didn't kind of understand what they were doing, and we quietly remove them. Uh, uh, but the only real issue we have is school kids signing up pretending to be blind. So.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, how do you approach that? I mean, it's wrong to pretend that you're blind, but then you can also, in the back of my mind, I would say, well, is there anything you can like say to that school kid, like, well, you're too young for this now, but maybe someday you can help us later when you learn about this? No,
Well,
seriously, because maybe to us
if you're
it is
pranked,
wrong.
we
It is
just
wrong to us
we
to be
just
a
suspend them. So.
right. I mean, it's wrong to be a prank. It's wrong to prank, obviously, but
Mm.
also sometimes children prank, not often, but sometimes they prank because they're curious and they just don't they want to learn,
Yeah,
but
yeah, yeah, yeah.
they go
Mm.
about it in a prankster way, but they actually are sort of secretly curious, but they can't express it. I don't know. I mean, I doubt that would happen, but how would you philosophically interpret that or approach that, I guess?
Well, it's um, sometimes it's also kind of cute, and so I have mixed feelings about it. But of course, my focus is that we want to respect the volunteers who sign up to
Sure,
help
of
blind
course.
people, and they should not at all deal with pranksters. And it's really not okay.
No.
And that's also why they do get suspended. Absolutely. So.
Yeah. No, I'm just being philosophical and saying most of the time the pranksters prank to be just a prank, but in other ways they might also be darkly curious too about what it
Mm,
is. I don't know.
yeah.
Probably not, but who knows. Anyway, that's very all incredibly interesting. So, what are some of your hobbies? What is, when you aren't running this amazing helpful app? What else? How else are you spending your time?
Well, I have a wonderful wife. I have also two grown-up daughters, and my wife has a upholstery business where she is putting new fabrics on old furniture, and I help her with that. And it's an amazing combination because mainly I sit here and answer emails and have meetings and so on, and then sometimes I get out of my office and I go out to her workshop and I help her do whatever she needs help with. So that's a wonderful combination, and so that's kind of my. And then we have now started to do some running together. We are going to something called Royal Run. That's the Crown Prince in Denmark when he turned 50, I think 5 years ago. They had this national run in many cities around the the country, and they do now every year. So we will be running 5 kilometers, I hope, in about a month's time. And we you don't need to do a whole lot of training, but we also don't want to look too stupid. So so we are practicing to run our. That will be like a little more than 2 miles. So, yeah.
Really good. Oh, that's so good. And do you ever use Be My Eyes yourself?
I do. When especially when I'm not at home, when
Hmm.
I'm out, let's say in a hotel, I'm about to check out, then I always forget something on the floor or a charger in the wall, or so I always use Be My Eyes when I'm checking out of a hotel. Um, and I also have this might be a little silly, but I have a self-driving lawnmower, and sometimes that damn thing stops place in the garden and I can't find it. So then I use Be My Eyes to locate my lawnmower and bring it back to the charging station.
Well,
So yeah,
I have advice for you about that. You could, of course, pay someone, a real person, to come with a lawnmower and take care of the garden.
that's right. Yeah.
That might do the trick. But no, that's not silly at all. That you have a we have self-driving vacuums, and that wouldn't surprise me in the slightest. Yeah, I'm sure you have that. Yeah, that's neither silly nor surprising. So, I of course have to ask you as we gracefully come to the end of another truly magnificent and touching episode here on Aaron's Opinion. I gotta ask. So, have you ever heard of me before? Have you ever heard of Aaron's Opinion?
To be honest, no.
That's fine.
But I'm super glad I did. So.
Well, I'm super glad. I'm super touched to be able to make the connection with you and have such a wonderful and meaningful conversation. So I'm sure you have a lot of questions. I'm an overly open person. So what do you really want to know about Aaron Richmond and Aaron's Opinion?
I would like to know what exactly you are teaching when you're teaching.
I teach English as a second language, and I've been teaching for about 7 years. I am also a French speaker. So I speak French too. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Are you French?
No, I'm American, but my second language is French. Right.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So should I say congratulations with the new French president, or did you rather have the other one? Or
I'm not. I don't know. I don't follow the politics of that country. I'm already concerned and terrified enough. I'm already scared of the politicians here. I don't need to be scared of other countries' politicians. Yeah.
I don't have strong opinions about. I think Macron is a decent president that I think I like more than the other one.
So. For someone who doesn't have strong opinions, calling a politician decent is pretty strong.
Yeah, that's right.
Wow, that was good material. That was you handle yourself so gracefully, bringing us such informative and entertaining, and you're just such a wonderful person in the world. Us blind people are very lucky to have you. But really, I mean it, man. I mean it, Hans. The person whose dog you helped to find, they're lucky to have Hans. You literally could have helped an entire family of sighted people. Okay, trust me. I mean, that really speaks home to me. Really, it does. So as I like to say, if you could ask me only one more question to really make me sweat, to see if I'm worth my salt as a podcaster, as I always ask, what do you want to ask?
What is your ambition with this podcast?
My ambition with Aaron's Opinion is to continue helping people every day. As I say on Aaron's Opinion, help one person today, help 1 million people tomorrow. It's about making the beautiful connection with you and each guest to help other blind people. We could be helping a lot of blind people just by having this conversation. We could be helping a lot of sighted people just by having this conversation without even knowing it. The most important thing, help people. That's really what I want to do. And of course, I have business aspirations, professional aspirations, but the aspiration that I aspire to most is to be remembered for someone who did the right thing and helped and was genuine and real. So, Hans, if someone wants to get in touch with you, or if they want to download Be My Eyes, if they're blind or sighted, where can they go to find all of your information?
Well, they can go to BeMyEyes.com and read all about the app and our business and specialized help and all whatever goes on in Be My Eyes, you can find on BeMyEyes.com. And there will also be links to the Android and the iPhone version of the app. And you can follow us on. Actually, I mentioned Will Butler, who is one of our employees, and he has 2 podcasts. One called 13 Letters, and which stands for accessibility that nobody can spell, but it's actually 13 letters. And then there's the Be My Eyes app, where he makes interviews with some interesting. We might have you on one day.
I would be.
Uh,
I was
it,
just about to say I would be honored. That is wonderful. That is so good, Hans. Well, Hans, thank you for joining us. You guys can click the link in the description. That was another wonderful episode. Hans, keep up your great work, as we say around the world. Thanks so much, everybody. We'll see you next week. See you next time. Help one person today. Help 1 million people tomorrow.